Commander.
Got no reference. What's the plan? GSL. In the service of hire.
Welcome back to GSL Code Ace for the third season of 2012. I am Wolf, with me is Calder, and we are going to have RorO up against Ryung.
It's the last best of 3 of the day. We have a Terran versus Zerg coming up now. It was actually the last game where we saw Alive being able to take down MC with a 2-0, and it was really a little bit impressive. After the game I talked to Alive, and he actually was like, I was just lucky today. He didn't really feel like he was a much better player in this best of 3. Just thought that he got the lucky end of the stick, was in most of those engagements a little bit more fortunate than his opponent. And MC, on the other hand, being the loser, gave a lot of autographs here in the studio, which impressed me quite a lot. Most of the times players who lost their match are actually quite disappointed and try to avoid the fans. He didn't. The boss toss, giving autographs and taking pictures with fans.
Yeah, showing that his mentality is still very much boss.
Yeah. But now we're heading into the last best of 3 of the day. It's RorO against Ryung. We have a Casper player against another Slayers player. This time it's a Terran. And this is going to be a very interesting game. RorO was doing well at MLG versus Pro League Invitational so far, especially against the Zergs. He didn't lose a single one of those best of 2 games. He has a couple of semis, a couple of tie situations there though. Here we have him to the left. He got a seat into the season. And of course Ryung was in Code S. Finds himself in the second round of Code A now.
Look at that record. That just goes to show how long Ryung has been around the GSL, how much experience he has. He's a big fan favorite. Ranked 22nd, excuse me. And on Slayers, in a time of Slayers not doing very well right now. So he's one of their hopes to succeed right now.
Yeah, Slayers needs a few wins here, especially with Genius losing earlier against Pyong. It was, of course, a bit of an upset for the Protoss player from the Slayers team. Now it is up to Ryung to make sure that at least one of the Slayers players is advancing to the next round today. Here we have both of them. And Toon Valley being map number 1.
Remember, of course, RorO getting a seed because of his performances in various tournaments, whereas Ryung was actually able to get into Code S, wasn't able to stay there last season, or this current season.
Map number 1 is loading, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready for the Terran versus Zerg. RorO against Ryung, our last best of 3 of the day here at the GSL Code A. The second round. Game on. RorO up against Ryung. Starting to the top left, we have the Samsung player. He's starting in red. It's the Zerg called
삼성전자 칸 RorO.
That was very quickly.
Yeah, Street Fighter voice is actually on fire today. To the bottom right of the map, we have RorO's opponent. In blue starts the teammate of Genius, who lost earlier today. It is
Slayers Ryung.
And Ryung already faced another Zerg player in the first round of Code A. He was up against Ragnarok and didn't have any problems at all of defeating the Zerg player from Team TSL. 2-0, didn't lose a single map. Now he has to face another one. This guy is supposed to be a little bit stronger. RorO doing quite well in the recent past. But Ryung also edging out a win against Live in the up and downs this season. Live, who's currently in the semifinals of the GSL Code S. So definitely a Terran player who knows how to deal with Zerg.
Yes, very experienced. A slightly forward barracks for Ryung, but this is just going to be a trick move. And also allow him to pressure with the Marines slightly faster if he chooses to, but they're just going to be doing a 1-Raxi span here.
The 15 hatch, no surprise here for RorO. The main question is going to be how he will follow things up. We have no drone scout on this map, he's purely relying on the overlords. We won't see a third hatch before pool most likely. It's very, very. I think I've seen it once or twice that it was actually executed without without a scout earlier. It was only against Marine King, who is known to go for 14 CC in this matchup. But currently, as you can see already on the production tab, we have RorO with this expansion.
Yeah. He's grabbing 2 more drones. Now, Ryung at this point will add a command center. He's not going to be able to deny his opponent's scout with that either. Well, you know what, actually? With this forward barracks, he may be able to stop the drone. It's going to be close. If he actually targets it right away. He's trying.
Doesn't really get it. He sees the barracks, he sees the expansion, and he's even able to get into the main base. He knows everything. No gas so far, even sees the gas being taken, the double gas being taken. Ryung doesn't even try to hide it at this point. He's like, yeah, well, okay, come in there, have a look. You can see what's coming. It's alright. I don't care at this point. So RorO now with a few zerglings, the double queen. It's also, of course, being scouted as an SME in his main base right now, just confirming everything that Ryung already expected.
Drones down.
Was planned down.
It was.
Don't be sad, Wolf.
I was okay. I look like I have tears in my eyes, but I have a little stuffy nose right now. It's been affecting me today. But there is just kind of this cold that's going around right now. I hope none of these players have it.
On Entombed Valley, by the way, one thing that we've seen in the games that were played the last few weeks was a lot of aggression happening. Especially the Casper players when they've, for example, Effort against Maru, a very aggressive game. A lot of Zerg players just try to be more aggressive with Banelings, with Baneling Roach, Baneling Speedling. And this might be something that we're going to see today too, not necessarily on Entombed Valley, but in this best of 3. Right now we have Ryung playing it pretty standard. He goes for the factory with the first 100 gas that he has and starts, of course, also a reactor so that he can start with his Hellion production. Most likely he's going to follow things up with a few Banshees in order to put pressure onto the Zerg player's economy, but also to make sure that this creep is just not spread as much as it could be. And Ryung with an SCV. The drone is trying to hide here. He's actually... wow. He is able to hide the drone. Really well done. RorO pulling this off, but he's losing an Overlord here. Supply block because of it, and that's a bit critical in the early game.
Oh, quite so. We will see Banshee play as well here with the Tech Lab. Likely to be added by the Barracks. 3rd CC coming up. Ryung playing a textbook 2012 build here. Just 1-Rax expanded the Hellions and Banshee and then 3rd CC. Likely to add Float very soon as well as the Starport finishes.
I was just really amazed how RorO was able to hide this drone. Of course, Ryung is going to expect that there's going to be a 3rd base very soon, and with a Banshee later on, he will be able to confirm it. But that was definitely quite cute. You could see, with having highlighted it, that you could see the range of the SCV vision, and he just dodged it at such a small margin. Right now, RorO is getting, of course, a little bit ahead in the Waka count. He's already at 38, and it will come down to the question how much damage Ryung is able to do with the Banshee. He even gets Cloak here, so there has to be some detection for RorO. And now with the Hellions sneaking in at the 3rd base, they know exactly what's going on. But the Hellions alone won't be able to do damage. The creep has been spread a little bit already. Another Overlord is now going to die. Once again, RorO will be supply blocked, but only for a second.
And he just used all of his larva, but oh, okay, just finished it.
Yeah,
I was going to say, like, oh, he's in trouble, but he's actually fine. The Hellions could try to sneak in here. I don't know if he's really going to commit to that. He's just poking around. He's like, oh, okay, that's a lot of queens.
Yeah, there's so many queens already. He has 6 of them.
Yeah, he's like, I don't even know if I can really do anything with my Banshee.
6 queens is pretty scary now for Ryung, because there will be a lot of creep being spread. Now we have speed and, of course, Latte coming up. The queen's still in position, haha, trying to defend the tumors, not working against Ryung this time.
Shows that even with the queen patch, and even with 6 queens, if you're very careful, you can pick up tumors. A lot of Overlords going out to spread and check for drops, but these are all going to become targets for Vikings later on. You see the eBay is coming up before the Evolution Chambers for Ryung, but the Lair Tech is started, and here come the Spores. This is going to be really easy for RorO to defend. With all the queens he has, he will likely lose very little, if anything at all.
It definitely should be quite easy for him to hold this. We have SCVs now also being pulled in order to repair the Hellions. I really like this decision. Well, now the Banshee has to be careful. Rogue is being used. He needs to wait for the Spore Crawler here. He has a lot of energy, so he can start transfuse.
He's targeting down the most injured. There's so many transfuses available regardless.
As soon as the Spore Crawler is done, he might actually lose the Banshee immediately. But here come the Hellions.
There's a lot of Hellions.
That's quite a lot of Hellions. And of course now the Zerglings are running in and trying to surround them and take them down. But it's not going to be tricky. But with all those Queens, he will be able to do quite a lot of damage.
He needs an Overseer. He hasn't made one, and this is starting to become a big problem. He's using transfuses, but he can't actually kill those Banshees.
The Hellions could have moved in. He doesn't really want to do it because he is a little bit cautious. He's not quite sure how many Zerglings there are. He doesn't want to be surrounded. But yeah, with all of those Hellions and the Banshees, he can do a lot of damage here. Another Queen might die here, and Transfuse just saving her ass.
A ton of tumors going down, and by going down I mean being killed, and so Ryung able to push that back. You were so right though, he could have done more with the Hellions, but at the end of the day, it's a win for him. He did a lot of damage. A big mistake not starting that armor upgrade at his double E-base though, as was just highlighted. He's got +1, 3/4 of the way done. He's got that second engineering bay just wide open right now. He's got 600 gas, could be starting it. Starts his armory. I think he may have thought that he started it because he certainly has not.
Path of Clans is now on its way as the Infestation Pit is done. And we have another expansion coming up for Ryung. He did not start the armor upgrade, as already mentioned, as pointed out. And this is becoming an issue because he did really not realize it.
Yeah, I think he totally thinks he's got 1-1 about to finish right now.
He just mentioned it a second ago. He really assumes that his second upgrade wave will be done. That's why he also builds the armory here. But this is pretty... Now he realizes it, gets the armor upgrade.
Oh yeah, this is so unfortunate for him.
2 more bases coming up for RorO. If you look at things right now, we have 72 Harvesters against 60, so we have a pretty decent tech for both of these players. The Infestors are now joining the battle, and Ryung did not do too much drop play. The one thing that I'm really missing for him is the Viking. As you already said earlier, all those Overlords that are on the mini-map right now, they are potential targets for a Viking, but you have to get this one Viking and then you can take down all these Overlords, supply block your opponent, and make sure he has to sacrifice additional lava. But we don't see a Viking just yet, and this will make sure that RorO always knows if there's a medivac heading his way.
Oh, Ryung is kind of sitting pretty right now. He's allowing his opponent to take a 4th for free. Gets Hive Tech, the Spire out, 2/2 Burrow, and Infestors without any pressure whatsoever. He is really going to be in... He's going to be bent out of shape when he faces the Blue Lords. He doesn't start to put some more pressure on. Now he's doing it a little bit. Pushing his creep back even further. It's not as far as it would be if he hadn't attacked early on in the game. A nice fungal here.
Yeah, well done. The fungal is good, and he even wants to get the Banshee now. The Infested Terrans are there. He needs another fungal though in order to reveal it. There it is, and the Banshee dies. The problem for Ryung is that we have a Zerg player who's heading towards a Greater Spire without being pressured at all.
Yeah.
Now we have Combat Shield coming up and all these upgrades for the Terran, but we have 4 bases for RorO. He's looking at a huge amount of workers with 90 to 70, and he just has all these additional bases. Getting 5th base.
He basically has everything he wants.
Yeah, he's not pressured. There's just nothing that really stops him from doing what he wants to do. Now Adrenal Glance is coming up, more Zerglings in order to just be prepared if something's coming up. +2/+2, going for Spine Crawlers, Spore Crawlers as a defense in his main base, at his natural, at his third, at his fourth. All these things that just work there so well, and Ryung has to be very careful. If RorO gets this army set up in front of the town as a main base, then he might just die to this.
Oh, a nice pickup here. I think if he had had all those Marines attacking, he might have been able to force the cancel there, but regardless, save. A nice little catch in the middle of the map. Ryung now has this beefy army. We talked about how he was not pressuring, but he's pressuring now with the scariest pressure that RorO could ever face. He's down in supply. Got a great bundles here. The first bundles are pretty good, but he's losing a lot of links here as well to the siege tank fire. And this is a problem as well. Going right for that 4th hatchery, again, excuse me, 5th hatchery.
A drop in the main base, not successful because RorO is ready with Zerglings and Queens, and of course these Corruptors are another problem.
And now he's got tons of spores set up.
He loses the hatch. He doesn't even... he didn't actually even cancel it. He loses it. And now this Medivac is most likely going to die, but there are so many Corruptors on the map. He could take down these Medivacs. Now Ryung is trying to get into a good position while the first Broodlords are now morphing.
And he's starting the Starport transition at home as well. Double Starports go up, make those Vikings. Ryung sat back for a while, but when he turned on the heat, he turned it all the way up to max. He's got a stream of Marines doing their parade push across the map. RorO is going for a counterattack, though.
And the thing is, with this map being as big as it is, the problem is that Ryung will be ready to get all these Vikings out before the Brood Lords actually arrive at the bottom right. They might be able to pressure Ryung back, but the 4th base is gone. So currently RorO is sitting on 3 bases, trying to put on some pressure, but he can't really do it with the Zerglings. And all these Brood Lords that have just been morphed now have to fly all the way from the top left to the bottom right, which gives Ryung time to get the Thors, to get the Vikings, so he will be ready to face the Corruptors and the Brood Lords.
This is a situation where Ryung has definitely put the hurt on. He was able to, RorO was able to secure those 2 bases, well, almost the one to the top right, not quite able to really hold on to that. But once the Ryung put on the pressure, he didn't handle any of it. So now he's down in bases. His economy is really hurting. He doesn't have a bank that he can build right now.
It was just a great timing for Ryung. He hit right before the Brood Lords were ready, and this is exactly what he needed. So the timing for him was excellent.
Oh, and he's going to get the hatchery again.
Oh,
well,
cancelled.
Is he?
No.
Not cancelled and not killed either. So he actually lets that one go.
Small drop in the main base has been shut down. And 11 additional Corruptors are coming up. We even have a Raven for the point defense drone late in the fight.
I like that choice because it's not only for point defense drone, but as well as clearing up creep. You know, the possibility of banning landmines is there as well.
It's going to help a lot. Here come the Zerglings now, trying to get into position at the 4th base, which is undefended. Oh, actually tries to flank here. Oh, wow, is Ryung ready?
He gets a great fungal on the core of the army. Can he follow through, though?
That was a beautiful fungal, and I think he has enough units, especially with the Queens here.
And he hits the fungal, pushes him back. It's a great engagement for RorO. That medevac is not going anywhere.
The Queens with constant transfusers pressuring the air army as well. And now suddenly RorO is maxed out again at 200 supply. Ryung dropped down to 160. Yes, he has these upgrades coming up. +3/+3 will even be faster for RorO than they are for Ryung. And now the Terran player, of course, is struggling a little bit here. But he's setting up all these units, this composition, that could be really dangerous to RorO.
He's got the 4th base up as well, and that's really critical. He's getting a 5th. RorO he won that first battle. He's got a lead in supply, but with his creep sword being so lacking, it's hard for him to actually attack and punish right now. His Brood Lord composition is so slow. He's switching into Ultralist here. But Ryung is preparing for the late game. He's getting Corvid Reactor, getting the extra orbitals. He's adding that +3 armor attack that was a little bit late from before.
And the funny thing is that we have now also more and more Marauders being added to the composition of Ryung. So he's already getting ready for the Ultralist. I mean, of course, at this point he wants to take down the Queens and he wants to take down the Infestors with them. But this is actually like exactly what he wants against Ultralist later on too. So Ryung is running into a wall. RorO is running into a wall a little bit.
Yeah, he knows the Marines are not the idea. That's why he's sending them into groups of 5 to 6 to just try to trade them efficiently and get rid of them so he can max out and better supply here. Back at home, he is currently up to, looks like, trying to find out exactly how many Tech Lab barracks he has. It looks like only 3, so he's going to want a little bit more than that if he wants to continue Marauder production as well as possible.
But these battles are going to be so interesting with the point defense drone, with the Thor against the clustered up Corruptors and those Marauders. It's going to be a really interesting fight. The Marines trying to run by here and finally being caught by the Zerglings. But the next big fight is going to be so interesting. Ryung is nearly maxed out. The army supply currently 126 against 106 in favor of RorO. But just look at these compositions here. Queens are dying, Infestors being saved just.
Gotta be so careful versus that Thor shot. There's only one Thor, but the AoE damage is insane. He's got +2 on the Thors as well.
He's playing this so well though. The Thor getting a couple of good shots off, the Brood Lords trying to commit, but there are so many Vikings using this range. The Thor dies, which is of course a problem. Where are the point defense drones? The Vikings trying to get in.
Oh, there they are. They're back at the back here. A really great position for them actually.
But at the same time, it looks like RorO is able to push in there. He's playing this very cautious, and now there's no Thor to do area effect damage. He can only rely on the Vikings now. And with this many Corruptors, it's going to be difficult.
He didn't have a planetary there either, which makes it all the more difficult to attack.
He's losing ground, and he's losing ground fast, but he attacks at the 4th base of his opponent, sends Marines over and takes down the 4th. There is still an expansion for RorO that he can use with his drones, but both of them doing so much damage to the economy of the opposing player.
he can't really engage just yet. His Viking count is getting higher. It's 15 to 20, but that's 20, man. 15 versus 20 with infestors to support as well as queens. You can't win that fight.
Yeah, as soon as those fungals hit. But now we have another drop, but it's not going to be enough. Even with +3/+3 against max upgraded Zerglings, it's just not worth it.
And, you know, Ryung added some extra command centers, but he lost them. He only has one extra command center at his natural, it looks like. And that one is not even made into an orbital or anything. He hasn't even picked it up. So he's in a position where his economy is very weak. And look at the bank of RorO, 3,000, 1,500. That is going to allow him to easily make this Ultralis transition that he's starting into right now. 3 Ultralis, Titan is plating, finishing up.
He has such a scary army. He is triple expanding, and the units that he has on the map, that is such a scary force. Now he's moving in. There are the fungals. Where are they? He needs to fungal, and this is exactly the fungal that he needed. Not the fungal that Ryung deserves, but exactly what he needs here. Brilliant.
Brilliant indeed.
But both players really dropping in supply. Ryung is giving him quite a hard time.
19 larva available for RorO. He spends 10 of it on Ultralis right now.
Just look at the resources lost. 24,000 lost for Ryung, while we have RorO with only 16,000. Usually, it's exactly the opposite of what we see here.
Absolutely, and this matchup, that is what you normally see. He's still making 5 bikes at a time. That's not going to be very effective against 10 Ultralis that are about to come out. That's just not going to be useful. His Marauder count is still quite low at 6 because he never added those tech labs onto his other barracks. He never made any other barracks with any switches.
A big problem for Ryung is that he does not know about this space in the middle of the map. All those spaces that have been built to the left are still a mystery to him, except for the one at the bottom left, which he currently takes down with a small amount of units. But the main mining base in the middle left, the center left of the map, that's one of the bases that he just does not know about. He has no idea.
He could easily harass it if he knew about it, but he doesn't. You're so right. RorO is not making anything right now. He's maxed. His composition is insane. He's actually blown light at 58. His army supply is 140.
But he's still building this bank, and Ryung just doesn't have enough resources to keep up with his production. If he loses another fight, it's going to be lights out for him. He just cannot keep producing units at this point in time. Whoa, now we are moving in, and look at all these Ultralis. If he finds a good angle of attack, he needs to be careful that they get the surface area. He needs a good surface area here. Here come the infested Terrans. Those siege tanks are nearly gone, and look at Ryung dropping in supply here.
Dropping in supply as the Corruptors close the distance. A ton of infested Terrans here as well. Ryung, I think, is out of luck.
Even though those Ultralis are not really able to make it work out, don't have the surface area that they need, with the infested Terrans to support them, they do so much damage, and RorO is rebuilding his army, and this is something that Ryung just can't afford.
Yeah. 5 more Ultralis on the way. Ryung down to 80 supplies, making 1 siege tank and 1 Marauder right now. That's all the money he has in the world.
This is just a matter of money, and Ryung he doesn't have any money left. There come the Zerglings, the reinforcements, we have the spine crawlers. It looks more and more like Ryung is going to be down 1 game in this best of 3 series. He's at 70 supply against 190, and RorO just doesn't stop.
GG.
Game over. And Tomb Valley goes to RorO. The Casper player from Samsung Khan doing a great job here.
Just sitting in that booth. Ready for game number 2.
Yeah, he's definitely ready.
Calm and collected throughout that entire game. And Sella, very disappointed with Slayer's results recently, and is actually going in there to talk to Ryung, make sure he's ready for game 2. This is a tough time for Slayers. A lot of their players who showed results in the past dominantly are no longer doing so. A lot of players disappearing from the team roster and things like that. Whereas RorO is an up-and-comer. He's like the new guy on the block, and he doesn't look like he is stopping at all.
It's just so tough for a Terran player to face this composition, especially when you have this many infestors. Then it's going to be very scary when you have to face your opponent's air composition, because Vikings just can't be fungled, and then as soon as they are pinned down, the infested Terrans just do the rest of the job. I would actually like to see more Terran players try what Gumiho did at the WCS Korea, trying to add ghosts into the composition when they realize that there are a lot of infestors in the game. Gumiho was quite successful actually against exactly this player. He was able to win against RorO with his ghost play, and infestors was something that he did not have too many troubles facing. Yeah. Exactly, the game on Ohana, yeah, exactly. On the same page here, with good control on the ghosts. You can EMP, you can snipe, and as soon as the infestors are out of the equation, the game becomes so much easier for a Terran player. But I feel that a lot of Terrans don't really want to experiment these days because it is a different style and you have to get used to it. It's not easy to pull off.
Ryung looks really disappointed there. He's listening to what Sella has to say, but does not look happy right now after taking that loss.
I mean, on a map like this with cross positions, once you deal with the initial pressure and the Zerg player has time to set up everything, and this is the time that Ryung gave him, it's very difficult to just stand there and take it. And this was exactly what Ryung tried to do. He was just standing there and taking punch after punch after punch, and RorO did not stop. Game number 2 is going to be Whirlwind, not really a map that's...
And Ryung's not going to be happy about this big Zerg map.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't make things better at all. Game 2 about to start, guys. RorO up against Ryung here at the GSL game number 2 on Whirlwind.